Hi everyone, welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. My name is Chelsea if you're new here, and if you've been here before, welcome back to my garden where we are going to do some more harvesting. That is what we're going to be doing every day for the rest of the summer. It is definitely prime harvest season right now, and I am here for it. It took a very long time to get to this point this year. We had just a long cold spring and early summer, so things just took a little bit longer to take off than they usually do, but my are they ever now, and so it's very exciting. Dan and I actually went away for the last couple of days, so this is the first time I've been down in my garden to do some harvesting, and you would think going away for a couple of days wouldn't be a big deal. Just 2 days, that's not a big deal. Well, it certainly is when you're right in the thick of harvesting like we are right now, especially when it comes to things like zucchinis and cucumbers, pickling cucumbers in particular, which is where we are now, is at my pickling cucumber patch. I expect that we are going to find some cucumbers in here that are bigger than I like to use for dill pickles, but could still be used for sweet bread and butter pickles. So let's get to it. We'll start with this harvest. Okay, that's not such a bad size. These are a little bit bigger, but there doesn't seem to be too many that are much bigger than this, so that's good. It's not going to be a really big loss, but I suspect we're going to get quite a few. That's exciting. And lots that are the perfect size. Yay! Not too shabby. Few broccoli, of course. These broccoli took forever to start making side shoots, but they are now. I was actually kind of worried that they weren't going to, and I was going to have to rip all these out, but thankfully I get to wait and do that in the fall. Oh, there's another head hanging out in there. This is quite exciting news. We have some cauliflower starting. It's another week or two and we're going to be able to do this harvest. I have lots of side shoots on these ones. These are the Calabrese, which is an old variety from the 1950s, and it has generally a looser head, but these side shoots are really loose, so I think I'll pop these off and use them in a stir fry, and I'll let lots of them go to flour. So do you remember when I said the other day that the amount of side shoots that you get off a plant can equal the amount of broccoli you're going to get off in your main head? This is what I meant. So this is just off of one plant there, and that's quite a lot of broccoli. It's going to be a fantastic cauliflower year. Look at this. Look at that. It's beautiful. Look at that. It's a beauty. Some zucchinis, of course. I am absolutely ecstatic about these. So these are, I believe it's called Purple Crush poppies. Look at how exquisite that is. They're even better than I was hoping. These are the first two blooms, and I saw them when I came out this morning. I was so excited. My poppy garden here is starting to look a little sad. Plants are starting to die back now, and everything is flopping over. I had the sprinkler going on this area last night, but as you can see, my honeybees are ecstatic over this situation, and they are just absolutely swarming the poppies. Still looks pretty, but I will do it a little bit differently next year. Look at all the honeybees on there. That's awesome. And look at this pretty butter yellow sunflower. Isn't that lovely? This is my fennel, and I was super excited about fennel because last year was the first time I had ever grown it. I didn't think I would like it because of the kind of black licorice flavor of it, but I actually really loved it. So I planted a few more than I did last year, but I've only harvested one. I haven't even harvested very much, and they're all starting to bolt now. So I think I'm gonna try to find this one back here that hasn't bolted yet. I'll grab that. The rest of these, I have heard a rumor that swallowtail butterflies love these, plus they're beautiful. So I'll probably just leave them here. And I did see a swallowtail last year. It was the first time that I had seen one in this area. So we'll leave this for them. If I have that right, even if I don't though, it's going to look pretty when these all bloom. Look at the Shasta daisies over there. Oh, look! Our sunflower bloomed its first head over here. So you see the difference? That other one was a butter yellow and this one's almost orange. Someone asked me in my last video in the comments whether I pick my flowers and bring them in the house. I actually don't. If we're going to have company over, sometimes I'll pick a bouquet to put on the table, but for the most part, I like to just leave them out in the garden and enjoy their beauty out here. It brings me so much joy to come out here and see these blooms every day. Our glads are starting to do their thing. Got a honeybee on them too. Oh, these purple poppies. Oh my gosh. Look at how much they stand out. Isn't that gorgeous? I think we have the main garden pretty much picked what we need to pick, but let's check down here in the high tunnel and see if there's anything that we need to take care of down here. This is, of course, not ready to pick, but look, we have a little baby watermelon. We actually have quite a few little watermelons hiding in here, so that's really exciting. Look at our early champ melons over here, doing great. We are going to do some pepper picking in the next couple of days and pickle peppers, which I'm excited about, but we can leave them on there for now. Look at the size of this zucchini alongside this delicata bush squash. I've just taken up this whole end, which is what I was hoping for. And this dianthus that's in underneath here is being kind of choked out, but it seems happy. And then of course our teddy bear sunflower poking its head up there. I don't have any delicatas on here yet. Mostly all male flowers have come on. That's what this guy is without the fruit on the bottom. But usually what happens when you get a big flush of male flowers like this is within about a week, you're going to get some female flowers. So we'll just let that be. Good grief, look at the size of that one. That's another zucchini. It is huge. And we have this beautiful vine here, which is Socrates cucumbers. And I've actually already been in here picking some. Let's see if we have any more that are ready. Oh, there's one. Looking gorgeous. There's another one. These slicing cucumbers for a northern climate never let me down. They are never kind of soapy tasting or bitter. They're always juicy, and if you pick them right at this size, they are absolutely delicious. So I am going to have a peanut butter and cucumber sandwich with a little bit of salt for lunch. If you haven't had it before, I know it probably sounds weird, but it is delicious. Our tomatoes have been taking a really long time to get going, but they have started ripening, which is very exciting. All right, friends, let's get into this situation here. We're going to worry about the wheelbarrow out on the deck once we get this canning done, because I need to get this canning done, because when I bought these beautiful blackberries and brought them home, I brought with me some fruit flies. And the rule with a homestead kitchen in the summer, if you can at all do it, is to get your berries and your fruit processed as soon as humanly possible so that you don't have an explosion of fruit flies, which happens in even the best managed kitchens. So we are going to get these dealt with. These are gorgeous. Look at the size of those blackberries. Aren't they beautiful? I don't know if I mentioned this down in the garden, but we can't grow blackberries up here. Very, very sad about that. I was excited though, because these were $5 a pound for blackberries, whereas last time I bought them, they were $7.99 a pound. So I did buy an entire flat because I love them so much. So we're gonna wash these. They were sitting in the back of the truck on the way home, and the road is quite dusty. So they're a little dusty. Well, we'd wanna wash them anyway, but we're gonna wash them for the dust especially. I also got 3 ripe pineapples here that I am going to can into little bite-sized pieces of pineapple for pizza. I also wanted to try the kimchi that we made together last time we were together. I heard back from so many kind, amazing people about my kimchi, saying that they thought that the way that I did it was going to work, but that when I added the extra liquid on top, you don't actually need to do that. There's a few things that I did. One is I massaged the salt into the cabbage the same way that you would for sauerkraut. And that's not necessary because you want a little bit more of a crunch in your kimchi. So just leaving it to sit with the salt for 3 or 4 hours is recommended. So I'll do that next time if we like the taste of this. The other thing was the added brine that I added, because in my experience, whenever you're fermenting, you always want to keep everything covered by a brine, but apparently with kimchi, that's not necessary to keep it completely covered, which I thought was interesting for a ferment, but in this case, we don't have to. And also somebody who wrote a really detailed description, she was actually from Korea, about how to do kimchi. Thank you so much for you doing that, because you put in so much effort to explain some things to me, which I really appreciated. And one of them was not to ferment this for very long. In a warm summer kitchen, a maximum of 3 days, more like 2 days, she said. So as soon as I got back, I put this in the fridge so that it wouldn't keep fermenting. And now we're going to give it a taste. And I have to admit to being a little bit nervous about it. The smell of the fish sauce just about did me in, but it actually smelled really good when I checked it before I put it in the fridge. It smells great, and it looks beautiful too. So let's give that a try. I'm being ambitious with this. That's delicious. Dan is going to love that, and I put the perfect amount of red pepper flakes. I took red pepper flakes and ground them up because I didn't have the Korean red pepper. But that amount of heat for me, there's a little bit of heat there, but the flavor of that is absolutely delicious. Dan is going to love that. I'm excited. I love fermented food, and to have a new type of ferment to eat is awesome. So that will be something I am definitely going to make again. I have about 6 more Chinese cabbages out in the garden, so I'm just going to turn that all into kimchi. I will get some of the proper pepper so that I can try it with the proper pepper, and a lot of you gave me some different suggestions. The biggest takeaway that I got from kimchi is that everybody's kimchi is different. So sauerkraut is kind of basic. Most people do sauerkraut the same way, but kimchi, each family household has a slightly different way of doing kimchi. This is what I learned from all of the amazing comments. So I guess I'll just keep working on this until I get it exactly the way I want. But honestly, that's good. I could see that maybe some little chunks of apple. I did try fermenting with apple last year with a Romanian fermented recipe that somebody sent me, and it was out of this world good. So I think some little chunks of apple in that would sweeten it out a little bit, but like the flavor in my mouth is really good. It's excellent. So that's great. I think what we're going to do first, we'll do the blackberries first, just because that's the easiest. I'm actually going to be canning the blackberries in a medium syrup whole. I'm not making jam with them or anything. I just want to cook them whole, and then I can use those for blackberry pie in the winter time. So I've shared this multiple times over the summer, but I'll mention it again. I don't make pie filling with a thickener. I just make it with a medium syrup, and then I thicken it when I'm going to make my pie. And I also mentioned that I prefer not to use freezers for preservation as much as possible. Even though we do have backup generators for our freezers, I prefer to have shelf stable food. So that's what we're gonna do with that. I might reserve a few of them to make a fresh blackberry pie, but we'll see. You know, that kimchi might compete with sauerkraut for being my favorite ferment, because it's that good. I can really taste the garlic in it, and you guys know I love garlic, but the garlic, the ginger, and I can't taste like a fish saucy, what I would expect it to taste like a fish saucy flavor based on how the fish sauce smells. But it does add something to it that's really good. I do think my breath's gonna be a little intense though, because that was a lot of garlic. Man, these are just gorgeous. I'm going to do these in quart jars, the blackberries, because I use about a quart jar for a pie. And then I will use pint jars for doing the pineapple because you don't need that much pineapple for pizza, and that's primarily what I use the canned pineapple for. Back over on the stove, I have a medium syrup that I've made, and usually for a medium syrup, you want to use about half as much sugar as you use water, and that will give you a kind of a medium to heavier syrup, which for a pie filling is what you want. You know what's so nice about these berries is they are nice and firm, and they should hold up to the canning process and be able to retain their shape. I know it almost seems criminal to can something so beautiful and not just eat it fresh, but I do want to have some gorgeous blackberries in the winter time. Oh my gosh, crazy good. Okay, I'm gonna do 7 quarts because that's how much I can fit in my canner. And then if I have any left over, I'll save those to make maybe a crumble instead of a pie. I don't love making pie. I do love eating pie, but I don't love making pie. But a crumble, super easy, doesn't take much time and tastes delicious. So probably do that. Maybe I'll do blackberry, raspberry, maybe some blueberry. Okay, I'm gonna push these in a little bit, pack them in, because there is going to be some shrinkage. If you don't want shrinkage when you're canning berries, just blanch them a little bit first. But I do tend to, this time of year, cut corners a little bit, not with safety, but just with things that are extra steps that aren't necessarily necessary, because I have so much that I need to do. So I'd rather just get it done, even if it's not, even if it's not perfect, than spend too much time. So we have our 7 jars there. We're going to grab our syrup. Okay, so we have our medium syrup here. And now we're going to top off our jars. I made extra syrup because I'm going to use the same syrup for doing our pineapple. Okay, I'm going to be very careful when I'm debubbling these because I don't want to crush the fruit. I normally say not to use metal when you are debubbling because you can scratch the inside of your jars and cause little micro scratches in there that can just weaken the integrity of your jars over time. That's just an extra precaution. But generally I use either plastic or wood, but I don't have any little wooden skewers right now, and my big plastic one will crush this fruit. So I'm using a metal straw, and I'm just being gentle. And we'll just also give these a little shake to get any extra air out of there. Wash our rims since we have sticky sugar on there. So this company, Superb, sent me a bunch of canning lids to try, and I was excited to try them because these are actually North American made canning lids, and I have heard from you guys over the years that these are your very favorite lids, so I thought I would give them a try. They did offer me a discount code, but I explained to them that I don't like to offer discount codes or do anything that looks like I'm saying a product is really good until I have tested it, and that my standard is at least 6 months. So I've started doing that over the last couple of years, and it makes it so that I'm not suggesting to buy a product that I can't get behind. So they were happy with that. So we're gonna give these a try. These ones apparently do the snapping, like the popping sound that I love. Bernardin lids are another one of the lids, excuse me, that I really love to use because they do that snapping, you know, the popping thing when they seal, which is just something super nostalgic for me. So now we're just going to go finger tight on our rings here. One of the things that I did like about them so far is that you can buy them in bulk. And that's something that I can't do with Bernardin, which is the canning lid that I've used basically forever. But these guys sell them in bulk too, so that was great. So we're gonna put these over in the canner and we're gonna can them for 20 minutes, I think is what we'll go for. The berries are so dark that you can't even see them. It just looks like black juice in there. I wasn't actually planning on doing pineapple, but, ooh, that one is a little bit overripe. But because these were a good price, I decided to do a couple more. I can't remember if I told you guys that I tried juicing these pieces and the ends with my steam juicer, and the juice was super bitter. We didn't like it at all. So it's not something I will do again, either compost or chickens. So I think what I'm gonna do with the zucchinis that we picked out of the garden is I will turn those into zucchini bread, but those can sit out for a little bit without causing them too much harm. So I'll wait for a cooler day because we're right in the thick of a heat wave right now. So once it cools down a bit, I will bake a whole bunch of zucchini bread and get that into the freezer, just because when it's hot in the summertime, the last thing you want to do is bake. But if I have a bunch in the freezer, we can pull it out and not heat up the house. So with the cucumbers, I'm going to do some fermented pickles. I kind of showed you last time, but I ran out of actual pickles, so we didn't actually get to see the whole process. So we'll do that, and then I'm also going to make maybe some more refrigerator pickles. I'm not going to get into canning a ton of pickles this year because I'll do a few batches with you guys just so that I can show you how I do it. But I have so many left over from last year that I really don't need to pickle that many, but having some fresh refrigerator pickles in the summertime is fantastic. We can actually try some of the ones that we did together the other day because they are ready now. They've been in the fridge for about a week. And the cauliflower, I am just going to cut up that cauliflower and eat it fresh. I'll just put it on a plate with some ranch dip and we'll have that with dinner, because there's nothing as good in my mind out of the garden except for maybe a freshly picked baby carrot. That's pretty good. But I love fresh cauliflower. It is so delicious. So that's what we'll do with that. What else did we have in our wheelbarrow that I needed to deal with? I feel like it was mostly pickling cucumbers. So we'll get to that as soon as I have these done. But like I said, this is what I'm doing right now is really easy and an efficient way to put up some food in the pantry without spending a ton of time. And like I said, we're in the middle of a heat wave right now, so the last thing I want to do is have my stove going for too long. I do have, for larger canning projects, I have a outdoor kind of kitchen area set up with outdoor burners. So when we're going to do our peaches, our big huge peach canning day, which I'm going to see if Dan will join me in on, like he did with our big tomato one that canning day that we did last year that you guys really enjoyed. We'll probably do that. So that's going to be coming up. We actually were going to buy peaches, but they just weren't looking great, the ones that they had at the market. It's early for peaches. They're kind of starting to come on now, but more in the first and second week of August. So I'm going to be doing a ton of peaches and of course tomatoes like crazy. This is actually the first year, I think it's the first year, maybe I've done it once or twice before, but first year that I remember anyways, doing pineapple. And I don't think I'll ever go back to buying the store-bought stuff because it's definitely cheaper, especially if you can find your pineapples on sale. It is cheaper. We only have the option of imported pineapples because obviously we can't grow pineapples up here, but for those of you that live in climates where you can get them for really cheap or even grow them in your backyard, definitely recommend canning them because it's so easy and they're delicious and you know exactly what's in the jar and they're less expensive. So it's a win-win-win-win. Oh, I wanted to tell you guys something super exciting. Actually, I have a couple cool things to tell you. Number one is that we are going to be launching another tea towel, another Little Mountain Ranch tea towel, which is along the same themes as our first one, which we all loved so much. But it's a little bit more autumn vibes because we're going to be launching it in September. And if they sold out really fast last time, and we actually ended up doing a second run because so many people were disappointed that they missed it. So we're going to start a wait list for that tea towel, which you can get on in the email or the link down below this video to get onto that wait list. And then you guys will be notified probably at 24 hours. We'll try to give you at least 24 hours notice before they go live on their website. And hopefully you'll be able to grab one, because like I said, they sold out so fast last time, and I'm so excited about it. I'm partnering with Gingerbread to do these tea towels. Just a great small company. The second thing that we decided to do that I am so excited about is that you guys know that I have a membership community, which is basically, how do I describe it? It's just a legit community, even though it's online. And it is a group of women who are all interested in the things I share here on my channel, the canning, preserving, gardening, all of that. And we do live calls multiple times a week for lessons and Q&As and things like that. And it's wonderful. But I have heard from people over the last couple of years that they would love to get a little bit more kind of behind the scenes type of stuff. So outside of just the learning, because I know a lot of people are here and just enjoy the different lifestyle that we live, and not necessarily to do the learning part, but you love the videos and the content, which I'm so grateful for. So what we decided to do is start a patron level, similar to Patreon, but where you can get behind the scenes at Little Mountain Ranch videos. And we've already started posting them there. It's not open yet, but it's something that we're going to be launching very soon. And so it's just $10 a month to be able to get an extra video every week. And these are kind of more off the cuff, behind the scenes. One that I shared a couple days ago was where we were pulling our hay off the field, and I got the truck stuck, and Dan had to come pull me out with the bulldozer. It's like that kind of stuff that doesn't really fit into the overall channel, but it's a big part of what we do here. And I know a lot of you have mentioned that you miss seeing the animals. And the way that YouTube works now is I basically have two options. I can start a second channel on YouTube, which I just can't even wrap my brain around trying to do, to share that content, but because to share content that's not directly related to canning, preserving, or cooking doesn't work with the way the algorithm works on YouTube. Those videos just don't get any views here on my channel. Back when YouTube, or when I first started doing YouTube, the way that the algorithms worked is that there was a larger umbrella for the kind of content that video creators could make. So for instance, the homesteading content, you could do all things kind of connected to homesteading, and the algorithm would know where to put your videos and to whom to put those videos in front of. Now it is way more niche down. So if you do, in my case, cooking, canning, gardening, other food preservation methods, those are a little bit more niche down, so YouTube knows where to put those videos. When I go throw a video about, say, my milk cow or getting stuck out in the field or something like that on my channel, it completely throws off the algorithm, and those videos get very low views, and it sometimes can take weeks and weeks for my channel to recover when I do that. But those are videos that are super fun for me to share too, and I know that you guys enjoy so much. So we decided to do this where it'll sort of become part of our membership umbrella, but it will be its own kind of behind the scenes level of our membership. Still have, of course, our deep dive membership, where we have two different levels of where you can go in. The essentials membership is where you get to do one call every month. There's an amazing forum to be a part of and to ask your questions about all things related to everything that I share here. And then there is the VIP level, which is 2 calls per week, a forum, a library, the full entire enchilada of what we offer in our membership. So there'll be 3 different options for you, but I think for a lot of you that are wanting to just see more content, that this behind the scenes part of our membership is going to be fantastic. And I'm really excited about it because I get to be a little bit more creative in those videos and do things that are outside of what I do here on YouTube. Going to be continuing on with all the content, the free content that I share here for you on YouTube, of course, like I have always done, but this is just a kind of another thing that we can offer, and I'm really excited about it. So those things will be coming up in the next month or so. They're not live yet, but we do have wait lists for both of them if you want to get onto those. And now, my hands are so sticky. There's so much sugar just naturally in those that honestly, you could probably just can these in water. But since I have this syrup here, I might as well use it. So out of those 3, I'd call those medium-sized pineapples, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jars, which is great. Oh, my hands are so sticky. I still have lots more syrup here. So with that extra syrup, I'm just gonna put it into the fridge and then I can use it to can over the next couple of weeks. I'll add a little lemon juice to it too to help it stay fresh. And extremely well washed, these guys. So sticky. Using a funnel obviously helps a lot with keeping stuff off the rims, but no matter how clean you try to be, you'll likely still get some stickiness on them. So definitely wash them off. We'll try some of the regular mouth superb lids. Okay, I'll just set these aside, and as soon as our canner, is done over there, these ones will go in and into the fridge. Okay, now we'll tidy this up and then I'll wheel the wheelbarrow in here and we will deal with all of those cucumbers that we have to deal with. And all the pickling cucumbers are going to go in the sink and get a good scrub. Even though they were grown on the weed barrier, they're still pretty dirty. Okay, I'm just gonna let those drain over there and head down to the garden quickly and grab some dill and some garlic that I'm going to need for both of these recipes. I'll be right back. I think that I have enough pickles to do a gallon of refrigerator pickles and a gallon of fermented pickles or sour pickles. I went to Barkerville, which is this really cool gold rush, historic gold rush town. And they had a jar of sour pickles sitting on the counter. And apparently that was a really common thing in restaurants and pubs, was to have sour pickles that people could pay a couple pennies for, which I thought was really cool. I have a question for those of you that grow soft-necked garlic. So when I am curing my hard-necked garlic, which is what I've always grown, it's kind of what's recommended for northern growing, I leave it curing until the stem is completely dry. But this is different because it's soft. It's not hard and stiff like the hard-necked garlic is. Do you wait until this is completely dry in there? And also, how do you tell if it's completely dry? Because what I want to do is make a braid with my soft neck garlic, and so I'm not going to be cutting them off. With my hard neck, I can snip it so then I can see if there's moisture in that stem. But the soft neck garlic is so pliable anyway that it's kind of hard to tell whether it's cured on the inside or not. Or does it not matter as much because you're keeping that stem on and it'll continue curing once you braid it? That's probably the case, isn't it? Okay, we got a ton of garlic. We're going to use an entire bulb of garlic in each one of these jars here. And for the brine, for the sweet pickle, or not for the sweet pickles, for the dill pickles, I'm going to do half water and half vinegar, but I'm going to do half apple cider vinegar and half white vinegar. So biggest thing when you're pickling is to make sure that your vinegar is at least 5% acidity for it to be safe. I'm going to divide this dill in between those two jars, so they're going to be very dilly and very garlicky, just the way we like our pickles. I also have a couple of horseradish leaves here from the garden, and horseradish has tannins in it, which apparently helps to keep your pickles crisp. When I do my canned dill pickles, I am going to be using pickling lime. So So many people that I know swear by pickling lime for crispy pickles, and making crispy pickles is kind of hit or miss with me. Sometimes they're great and sometimes they're not, and I can do the exact same thing. There can even be 1 jar or 2 jars out of the same batch, and I can have one that's crispy and one that isn't. So I have heard that the pickling lime is the key to making legit crispy canned pickles. My refrigerator pickles are pretty much always crispy because we're consuming them usually within a couple of weeks, and they don't have a lot of time to go soggy, plus we're not heating them, so they don't have that working against their crispiness. All that much garlic in there, and then put a bunch of our dill heads in there. How about that? You know what? Let's layer these a little bit so that we have the garlic and dill distributed somewhat evenly. For the refrigerator pickles, I'm going to use the smaller cucumbers, and then for the fermented ones, I'll use the larger ones. So I'm just nipping off the flower end of the cucumber, which is this end here. And by nipping that off, it also helps to keep our pickles a little more crisp. Fermented pickles are, all fermented food is so good for your gut. I notice a difference when I'm not eating a lot of fermented food to just how my gut seems to be able to process wheat and things like that. I tend to get a bloated belly when I eat wheat, but if I'm eating a lot of fermented stuff, that doesn't happen. I'm not actually eating a lot of wheat at this point anyway, but the fermented food really does seem to help a lot. Pickles are one of those things that I misjudge the amount that I am going to have. I always think that it's going to fill more than it does in the end, every time, without fail. Don't know why. So what I'm going to do with this, because I have some space, is tomorrow when I pick my cucumbers out of the garden, I'll just top off this jar with some more. So we are going to do, like I said, half of this will be vinegar and half of it will be water. We're going to add a tablespoon of salt to this, maybe a little bit more. Going to add some apple cider vinegar and then some white vinegar. And then top it the rest of the way off with water. Okay, and then we're gonna put a lid on, and that's going to go into the fridge. These are our refrigerator pickles that we did, I think it was about a week ago. But let's try one. Nice and crispy. Those are delicious. They are not quite garlicky enough though. Should have put more garlic in. Okay, now to our fermented pickles. Okay, I'm going to add around 4 tablespoons of salt to this jar. And then I'm going to add a little bit of hot water to it, and that's just to dissolve the salt. And then now we're going to add our dill and a whole ton of garlic. The process of fermentation is so incredibly cool that we just harness the natural bacteria and yeast from the air and we can preserve food that way. I just think that is the coolest thing, and it doesn't require a lot of additives outside of salt. Salt is an important component of fermentation, but outside of that, you can just do it with water and whatever veg you have access to, which I just think is amazing. I think I might go grab another bulb of garlic and throw an entire bulb of garlic into here. This will probably be the only fermented pickles that I'll make this summer, because me and I think maybe 1 or 2 of my kids are the only ones that really like them. So it's kind of just something that I do for the summer. Where the bulk of my fermentation will be is when we do sauerkraut, which at the rate that my cabbages are growing out there will probably be in the next week or 2 that will make gallons and gallons and gallons of sauerkraut. And then I'm also going to do that Hungarian ferment that I did last year. It was beets, green tomatoes, apples, carrots, cauliflower. I'll have to look back on the recipe, but it was fantastic, really good. So now we're going to nip off the ends of these again. So these are not going to be a crispy pickle because they are bigger. You can cut them in half. Just know that if you do cut them in half, those ones will probably be, that one's a bit too fat, will probably be quite soggy because they'll absorb a lot of the brine. You can add all kinds of seasonings to these, whatever you like. I just prefer the dill and the garlic, but you can add chili flakes, you can add pickling spices to this as well. You might be asking yourself, why don't I just ferment straight up garlic? If I love garlic so much, I actually do. I ferment garlic in honey in the fall and eat it that way. I also I make black fermented garlic, which is absolutely delicious. I'll show you some in a sec if you haven't seen it before. Some of the stuff that I made last year, but it lasts forever and it is really tasty. This is what black garlic looks like. And the cloves are quite literally black and they are delicious. They are chewy. They taste a little bit, a little roasted, but really sweet. And I was learning the other day that you can actually make, I have a black garlic fermenter, but that you can actually make black garlic in, I think, an Instant Pot, maybe a slow cooker. There's a specific temperature that you need to hold it at over a long period of time, like up to 4 weeks. But when I make, excuse me, when I make this, I will, I'll do some research on that for you guys and show you some other ways to do it as well. So we're going to top this up with water now, and I can use straight up tap water because we don't have chlorinated water, but if you have chlorinated water, then make sure that you use some dechlorinated water or distilled water. So there are my pickles, my garlic, and my dill. So now I'm going to take one of these guys and I'm gonna grab a lid. So this is my trick for, I do this with sauerkraut with cabbage leaves too, but I take my lid and then I just roughly cut out the size of my lid, and then I can put that right in and it helps to hold down my pickles that are in there. So we'll throw in that little extra piece too. Probably 7 to 10 days is my guess, maybe a little bit shorter of time because it is warm. And I'll just keep trying them until they get to the sourness I want. So what you're going to notice when your product starts fermenting is the liquid will get a little bit cloudy. That is totally normal. What you don't want is any kind of mold growing, and you shouldn't have that as long as your liquid is covering your whatever vegetable that you're doing, that it's submerged below. You shouldn't end up with any mold, but if you do, then that is a sign that something went awry, and I would throw those out and start again. I just realized that I made a little bit of a mistake, and I added the amount of salt that I would normally add to a quart jar, not a gallon jar. So you want around, let me do the math here. 3/4 of a cup. So you want around 2 tablespoons of salt to every cup of water that you're going to use. So this is a gallon, so this will be around 3/4 of a cup or so of salt. So I already added, I'm gonna say about 1/4 cup. So we'll add about that much, and that should do us. I'm gonna give this a shake, and then I will top it off with my leaves again. And now it's ready to set aside. Okay, our blackberries are done here, so that's 7 winter pies worth of blackberries. I just wanted to share with you something that we were talking about in the community the other day about the steam canner, because one of the things that people are finding with them, and I actually found this too, is that there's siphoning when you take the lid off. And what I have determined that this is caused by, because since I have changed my method for using it, I'm not having that issue anymore, or at least not often, is to make sure that when you get your temperature brought up, so normally I'll crank it right up to high to get it steaming and to get my gauge to register the temperature it needs to be for my elevation. And then I would just leave it on high or medium high, let it do its thing. I'd usually wait about 10 or 15 minutes, pull the lid off, and sometimes I would get siphoning, especially if there was a lot of liquid or there was long canning times. What I have found that has made all the difference, oh, did you hear that? This little pop. What has made all the difference is turning the temperature down. So once it comes up to the temperature it needs to be, turning it down to actually like medium low. And that maintains enough heat in the canner to can it safely, but doesn't get everything so hot in there that it takes forever to cool down. That way I can do my standard 10 or 15 minute cool down, pull my lid off, and I'm not ending up with that siphoning problem. So that's just something to keep in mind. Honestly, if I read the instructions to my steam canner, I'm sure it probably says something like that to make sure to back the temperature off. But I just haven't been doing that. So just something to kind of mental note if you are having siphoning as an issue with your steam canner. So we're gonna get these going again, this canner going again, and we're going to be canning these also for 20 minutes. When I just went down to grab the garlic and the dill from the garden, I was just wandering along and kind of checking things out as I always do. And I found a zucchini plant that I didn't realize that I had planted over with all the squash. And there are 6 zucchinis about this size. My hands were full, so I wasn't able to bring them all up, about this size. So what I'm probably gonna do with these zucchinis is I'll do a whole bunch of zucchini bread like I was saying. And then the rest of it I will grate and put it into my freeze dryer and freeze dry it. And that will take care of that. So the zucchinis are actually slowing down a little bit right now, which is okay because I have a lot of them that I need to deal with. So I'll be back with you and show you everything that we did once that canner is finished. Alrighty friends, we have our pineapple back here, blackberries here. I did end up making a blackberry raspberry pie. I have a sink full of raspberries over there that my girls picked out in the raspberry patch. So I mixed the blackberries and raspberries together. I added a little bit of flour to that and a little bit of granulated sugar, not much at all because they were already so sweet. And then on the topping, I just did some oatmeal, a little bit of flour, a little bit of brown sugar, and some butter. That's it. Crumbled it up over top, baked it at 350 until it was nice and golden like this. I'm probably going to make a batch of homemade ice cream to go with this for dessert later on, and I can hardly wait because the blackberries and raspberries are my favorite, but a blackberry crumble like this is such a treat because we just don't get blackberries that often. We got the 2 jars of pickles done as well, and also I did have a cucumber peanut butter sandwich for lunch, and it was absolutely delicious along with some of the cauliflower over there. Perfection. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye everybody.